after a while, you kind of have to just nut up, so to speak, and force yourself to not give a shit. Or you know what I'm saying?
I've never fucking heard nut up.
Yeah, nut up.
I've
You
never
ever heard nut up before?
I've never heard nut up.
Seriously? Yeah, nut up, sack up.
Listen here, Sonny. You're gonna have to wipe off your knees and just nut up. Get out there, tackle some people or something.
Wipe off your knees. What the fuck did you get on and brush yourself off and get up? What, wipe off? What are you, kneel in sperm?
Nut up. Nut up.
Wipe your knees off, boy.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of the Thought Patrol podcast. This week, I am joined by Shawn over the Discords, and it is just it is just me and him today. The two,
just the two of us.
I was gonna start singing
You
Ebony
can
and
make
Ivory.
it if you try. Just the two of us. I don't even know if that's the lyrics, and it's going off what I've heard on
Hey,
advertisements.
it sounds good enough to me. And this week we will be talking a little bit about VR and stuff like that. So look forward to that. And for the most part, it's going to be a normal episode. Like
it's
usual.
so real.
Oh, yes. I wrote something catchy down. Wait, Immersion's Final Form? That's probably the title of this podcast. So that's what we will be
Beyond 5,000.
Exactly.
Hey, you are not welcome in this podcast tonight. You have been naughty all day.
He's like, hey, fuck
I don't
you.
think he's listening to me.
I've tried
Min pin for eat a dick?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. He's trying to make the baby face, but when he does, he curls his lips back so it looks like he's baring teeth.
Oh.
So it is the exact opposite of what his intention is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love my dogs.
That's good.
So
good.
dumb.
So I'm glad you could. Good. I will. I'm glad you can join me, Shawn. As
I'm glad I could join you too, Boo.
yes, we are recording this on a Monday because yet again there was another eventful Sunday night that I did not anticipate. Went to go see Wicked at the Broward Center for Performing Arts. I think it was called. Beautiful place, fucking gorgeous place, and they had a really nice. Right across the street, they had this fucking jazz and food festival going on that I really wanted to go to, but we were like already there, so it probably was going to be done by the time we were done seeing Wicked. But so it was just like open everywhere, like people sitting on grass, everyone just chilling out, eating food, enjoying each other's time, and just bands playing jazz. So it was really cool looking. Yeah, the whole area is just pretty compared to the rest of it, which is it's surrounded pretty much by a shitty like area, kind of like downtown, not
Wait a
Miami.
minute, what's the lobby look like?
I mean it I don't really know. There's like carpets and the stairs that go up and shit like that, and there's a bunch of different stages, I guess.
You're really bad at this. You're bad at
I mean, it looks like a fancy fucking
there.
place.
I think I did West Side Story there.
That's pretty dope.
I remember doing a theater, and I think it was in Broward. I know it was in Miami, on your side of town, where it was in the middle of this, like, it looked like a rundown area, but the theater was super nice.
All right, so you need to explain, what did you do? Like, what were you in West Side Story?
Yeah, West Side Story.
No, like, what was your role?
Oh, during half the run, I broke my ankle, so I was doing stage work.
Oh.
And the other half the run, I was carrying on 3 or 4 different. I didn't have a big role in that one. I was mostly side characters, so I would throw on different outfits and run out and do bit lines. I didn't have as much. This was a good time ago.
Okay.
about 10 years. Well, about 10 years ago. I didn't have any roles of note that I recall, not with that one. I've done West Side Story twice, and that time I was more working with the director, trying to learn stuff behind the scenes, so I wasn't focusing on roles. So I was sitting with her and working with her on a bunch of stuff, and then I'd run in and kind of do some stuff, then run back and direct the crew, and then help the actors out. I didn't do as much with that one when we were doing that run. I think we did like 4 or 5 weeks worth of showings.
Hmm.
It's been a month and a half, maybe,
That sounds
worth
cool.
of showing before that run was done, and then we switched over and did. What was it called? Into the Woods, where I played the Big Bad Wolf, which was a much cooler role.
I'm sure it sounds like a cool role.
Oh, it was so much fun, man! Because the Big Bad Wolf is this sleazy. He just comes off like super sleazy as he's trying to seduce Red. And so the way we decided to spin it is we did like this 80s glam rock thing. So I had like a rhinestone cod piece over my junk and fucking like leopard print spandex fucking leggings, like a leotard.
Okay.
And then we had this big, because I had to wear the wolf mask. So we did this like super 80s hair metal wig.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had the gloves with the claws and all that stuff. And then the furry feet and etc. But like we put all these accents in. Like I had a bright purple scarf tied around my waist, hanging down off of one side, and like jewelry and shit. It was fucking crazy, dude. I looked like the epitome of a sleazy, like the 80s fucking hair metal star that's trying to steal your daughter kind of thing. It was fucking ridiculous. And then I would just kind of coos up to her and like grind on her hip. And dude, I was the worst image that you would ever want your daughter to be. It was just horrible. It was fucking great. I had so much fun with it. I mean, the Big Red Wolf doesn't have a shitload of screen time. Like I'm dead, I think halfway through not even halfway through the play. I'm already dead, but it was the best scene. It was the best scene. It was I probably one of my favorites, besides doing the whole 76 trombones thing in the Music Man. That was super fun.
Okay.
I didn't really do much with West Side Story, though. It was mostly just running on with minor characters in the background and working with the stage crew.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
that time anyway.
I don't know. It's a very nice looking place. It's next to a marina, so they got fucking boats over there chilling out, and there's a park right in front of it, and that's where the jazz and food festival thing was going on. And then there's parking garages around it and shit. But like, if you go out maybe like a mile out from this place, this little area, the rest of it is like really shitty, like the coin laundromats and shit like that. Just looks awful. But this one area has got a decent amount of wealth in it. I don't know why. But again, the play itself was good, I guess. I mean, the story was okay. The music I enjoyed. The performances are really good. I really enjoyed the girl. I don't know any of the names. I have the playbill sitting around here somewhere. But the woman that played Glenda, or whatever her name is, she did a fantastic job of just being like a preppy, dumb blonde girl. Like, just fantastically done. And it is a point where it's like annoying, but there's like a charm to it. On top of the fact that it's annoying, so you don't really care all much that it's annoying because of the charm that's behind it. The story, I think my biggest problem was it was a little long at being started at 1. We got out like 4:30, so like 3 hours, a little bit over 3 hours. But that's usually what plays end up being. When we went to go see Hunchback, that was about that time. But I guess if the story is literally just like a high school drama that eventually turns into there's more stuff that goes on in the second act, I kind of had issues, I guess, with the pacing, but it was good.
It started that whole trend of like, what's the the whole like, let's look at it from the villain's perspective kind of thing. Like, you would have had stuff like, well, I mean, eventually I'm sure you would have, but things like Maleficent and other plays and books, because after that was written, there was this rash of books and musicals were written from like the villain's perspective, and
Yeah.
you start saying like, oh, maybe it was a different story, but The Wicked was the first one to really make any waves doing that. That's really its claim to fame, more than it being like the best story ever. It was a good story, but I mean, it's one of those things where I think you only need to see it once unless you're a super big fan. And I hate Oz. I hate that movie. Like, I like the stories. I love Return to Oz with the clock dude and the creepy bicycle guys and shit, the Wheelers, and it's got My Goddess in it, and I love that one that it was on Sci-Fi. It was a mini series with Adorkable, the chick from A New Girl. Can't fucking remember her name right now.
Yeah, you're drawing blanks
I'll
here.
remember it later. Huh?
You're drawing blanks here. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, she was in like the 10,000 Days of Summer and Elf and a ton of stuff. And we're gonna have kids, but for some reason I'm drawing a blank on her name. Everybody who's listening knows who she is. But she, I could use my phone, but it's very sensitive right now.
Yeah, no, don't touch anything on your end.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
The long story short is they did this mini series where Dorothy comes back as an adult and teams up with the Tin Man and so on, and the Wicked Witch is basically destroying Oz and murdering things and shit. It was darker. It wasn't like R-rated dark. It was more like PG-13, but it was still fun. That one was pretty good. Okay. I don't remember what that was called. I think it was like Yellow Brick Road or something like that. But that one was pretty decent.
Interesting.
But those ones veer more toward like a Alice in Wonderland feel than the Oz thing. I think the story of Alice in Wonderland going to a mad world was a bit more interesting than that weird, cuddly Care Bear bullshit of Oz. I like Oz when it's darker.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
So, but yeah, dude, Wicked's a good show.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. Something like you see it once and then you've seen it, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't really have a want to go back and watch it again. Like I'd go see. Well, I think one of the reasons I love Hunchback so much is hearing all the music live is really good.
Hunchback's a pretty twisted story too. When they
it's fucked up
for back then. Yeah. Like with Frollo and whatnot. Like how that guy was fucked. So fucked.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I'm thinking, what else? So that happened. Please forgive me if you hear any noises coming from my end because I'm dealing with removed wisdom teeth and stuff. That's also another reason why there hasn't been much content going on to the YouTube channel as of recent over the course of the last week. Has been because I did go get my wisdom teeth removed. I have 3 removed, and I'm very sinusy, I guess, because my 2 top teeth my teeth in general have very long roots, which is normally good, except if they're in your wisdom teeth. So my 2 top wisdom teeth were buried into my sinuses. So when they took them out, I have 2 holes up there now. So I can't strain my face, or so I can't blow my nose and stuff like that. So I'm just very there's a lot of pressure and I'm congested. So if you hear I'm drinking water, I'm trying to just, because it's 2 hours of talking, just trying to keep that up. So just forgive me if you hear any noise. But besides that, I'm good. I'm on pain meds right now, so I'm not in any pain. In an effort to actually make it through the 2 hours. This is my first day back at work. My first day back at work, so I'm happy to be back at work and school actually, and the pain is existent. It's not awful, but it's okay. I don't want to die, but the biggest thing is the pressure because of the holes in my sinuses, and I've had some of the worst splitting headaches I've ever had in my life over the course of the last week. And that sucks. But the procedure went well. Besides the fact that they didn't put me to sleep. Everyone I've talked to, they've been put to sleep for the procedure for the most part, besides like 1 or 2 friends that it was done locally, where they just give you a shot in the area and then rip them out. So I was given something called Twilight, which is like a excuse me, a mid-tier anesthetic. So basically, I was laying down. I was terrified because I've never been under twilight before. So I was laying there and shaking. And they were setting up an IV. Because they initially had to pull blood, because what they were going to do is when they made the holes, they were going to take the blood and pull the platelets out of the blood and use it to put it on top of the holes to help it heal, which it was pretty cool. But I got laid down and we were ready to start the procedure. And I remember them setting up the IV and stuff like that. And I'm laying there and I'm shaking like a bitch, like really badly shaking, which sucks. And the moment the twilight gets inside of me and it's in my blood, I'm like, yeah. I'm like super fucking chill. Just completely like calm, which is what it's supposed to do. It puts you in like this trance of a state where you don't really feel any pain. You're just kind of chilling there, like you're on a high, kind of. And they perform the procedure. The thing is I don't know if either they didn't give me enough twilight, or maybe my body is naturally strong to twilight, or like resilient to twilight. But I remember the entire procedure. They say you're supposed to forget, but I remember them going in my mouth. I remember talking to them. I remember them because they had to break 2 of the teeth. So I remember that happening, and there was a sharp pain, but it was almost like you just didn't care, really. You're just not receptive to it. But I remember it still happening. I remember them sewing the holes shut and doing all that shit. So it was a very weird experience, which is why they call it Twilight. But definitely, it was shitty, to say the least. And I'm just glad it's all over with and I don't have to worry about it anymore. But so I'm working on healing, getting back to normal. But
Zim!
Shawn, when you did your teeth,
totally thought I had it muted there. Sorry.
That's fine. When you did your teeth, did they knock you out, or have you gotten your wisdom?
No, they did local anesthetic.
Okay, because Tyler had local anesthetic too, because he did it at his college, and it only cost him $45 to get all his teeth pulled.
Oh, with dental students.
Yeah, and
it's probably what I'm going to do when I get mine done, but. I do not suggest a local anesthetic because it hurt. It still hurts.
I'm sure, because it only goes so far. That's why it's called local.
Yeah.
I recommend probably being knocked out, but that shit's expensive nowadays
and terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd rather be. I don't know. Because again, I was terrified up to when the twilight got into my system, shaking like a bitch. It's just weird. Because it might have just been my personal experience and the way that it went down for me, but yeah, I definitely remember most of it, and it was crappy, and I don't like Twilight anymore, so I'd like to stay away from that.
Nobody ever liked Twilight, dude. It's horrible. They have sparkly vampires.
And this is all in efforts to fix my jaw down the line, which I went out to get surgery, like crazy, actual dangerous surgery for that, with a maxillofacial surgeon in a couple months. But I had to get my teeth pulled first so they could heal properly before they go around breaking bones and cutting shit out in my jaw. And I'm also not looking forward to that. From what I've heard, it's going to be like a 3-day hospital visit afterwards, and it's going to take a couple months to fully heal back, and then there's possibilities for like permanently damaged nerves and shit like that. But it's all an effort to later down the line in my life not have horribly fucked up teeth. So yeah, so it's shitty, but I'm glad that the first couple steps are out of the way. And now we just have the big step, more of like a leap of faith into the unknown. But I'll be 100% out for that. Thank goodness. I ain't doing Twilight on that shit. Probably cry. So that was. Besides that, let's see. I'm hoping your week's been good, Shawn. I know that we've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV because there's not really much to do right now. It's kind of been our staple game of the past couple months, as everyone's been leveling, moving on into the expanded content.
Except for me.
Well, yeah, everyone will get there eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we all have something to do together. It kind of replaced what I was. It did what it's doing. What I was hoping Destiny 2 would do, which I'm okay with because as much as I did enjoy Destiny for what it was, it just didn't live up to expectations. So who would have thought? And now we have something
Surprise.
to do that. And the best part about it's crossplay, so we could all fucking still play together, which is awesome. And I don't have to play on console. Although that game's console port is really good for the most part. The only thing I mean, it's stuck. I think I'm pretty sure it's stuck at 30 frames. But again, that's something you see often anyway on console.
It's funny. It was fairly. I'd say it was common enough back during the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 eras. And then when you get into the higher end consoles, all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we can't because of this, or we can't because of that." It's funny. I mean, we're light years ahead in tech, and
Still can't.
and it's harder to do shit.
Oh
Whereas,
yeah. Also,
on
look
the
at
Saturn and the PlayStation 1, it was all over the place, where it was just common to have,
but look at
60 frames per second.
Look at a PlayStation 1 game and then look at like Uncharted 4. So there's just been a shift in
Yeah,
focus.
but look at the distance in time between the two as well. I mean, they've had time to adapt.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying. It's just that the focus has just shifted. It's a focus in graphical fidelity compared to performance, and a lot of people are okay with 30.
I don't even think the 60 frames per second back then was a big deal. I don't think that was something that they were marketing. It just was a thing. It just happened to be that way. Because we never talked about frames per second back during those days.
No,
I mean, you didn't talk about refresh rates and the resolution of the TV until the flat screens had been out for a bit. And then all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, you need a minimum of 60 hertz. You need, this kind of TV in order to get the best picture. You want to be careful because of the deep blacks or the bright whites or the vibrant, all that garbage.
Yeah. And being a member of the, I've heard it said, it was on a podcast, I'm not entirely sure which one it was. Remind me if you do listen to them and you're tuning in. The Church of Infinite Frames, indeed. The Holy Church of Infinite Frames accepts all members that are willing to take the steps to build and or buy. Actually, pre-builts are probably it's weird. There's been a complete shift because of everything with the Bitcoin cryptocurrency shit and GPUs fucking skyrocketing price, along with the there's been a little bit of a shortage of per se silicone. So things like RAM and shit are getting a bit more expensive too. But now pre-builts are a decent option. I saw a pre-built today. It was like a 1070. It's like an i5 8540, something around those lines, and like a terabyte hard drive and 16 gigs of RAM for like $1,300, which is a really good deal. And I guess because they're pre-built, they're not getting hit by the GPU price because they've already been manufactured and put together. They're just sitting there.
Yeah, they're manufacturing them and putting them together now too. So I mean, wouldn't that raise the price of systems that are built now?
I have no fucking clue. I don't know how that market works at all.
What I don't understand is how. I mean, granted, I don't know nearly as many people as I used to. I don't get out much, obviously, as much as I used to. Thank you, fucking adulthood. But I boggles my brain that there are that many people out there that are consuming that much tech for that singular purpose.
They have
it's just hard for me to put my noggin around that because it seems so obscenely stupid, and it's not working for most people as far as I understand.
In a way, it's not. Well, yeah, it really depends on how you invest your time but with the farming at the very least, I'm not going to blame anyone directly, but it's not like it's not NVIDIA or the manufacturer's faults because they've had issues with shortages before, obviously. Just in general, with cards taking time to come out, or when they finally do come out, the quantity is low. But they have fucking
chip shortage.
You can go to providers and you can get like 6-packs of fucking GPUs. Like I've seen them. Like they have a 1070 6-pack, like fucking a beer. And it's like $1,200. I don't remember how much it is actually. It was like $1,500, some shit like that. You get 6 just GPUs. So
That's for like
they're like
building
bulk.
servers and shit.
Yeah, that's what people do when they farm cryptocurrency. They're building farms to just farm the shit and try and make money that way. But I mean, that's more of like in the shady practices. You're not going to see your average dude go out and buy 24 fucking GPUs for $5,000 and start building computers and shit. It's definitely interesting. And as far under my understanding, I thought the bubble had already burst and people were starting to get out. So I don't know how much longer this is going to affect these prices, but it's weird that now there's been a kind of a shift, and I don't know exactly why it hasn't affected, because like Dell can easily say, "Oh, hey, we got this computer, but because GPU prices are high, we're gonna raise it a couple $100, so we're making our money back." But they're, for some reason, pre-builts are still pretty cheap. But I don't know exactly how that market works. And if you guys do and you're tuning in, feel free to let us know. I'm really interested in understanding how that kind of trickles down and does its stuff. But definitely an interesting shift. But again, with computers in general, it doesn't matter as long as you got a fucking computer. Mine's custom built. It's not a pre-built, but I didn't put it together. Eventually, when I have to take a walk in those shoes, because I'm gonna have to upgrade eventually. Although I'm good for a while, and when I get there, I'll get there. But I love my computer, and I don't think we'd still be here if I was using the fucking potato. But we wouldn't be able to give you guys as much as we have if I didn't take the step and pick this up. So I'm glad I eventually did, and all of you out there, I'm glad that you're tuning in with us. So I'm thinking.
How much was yours overall?
I think mine was like 1650, something like that. And I have a 1080, 16 gigs of RAM. I have an i7 7700K, which is a 6-core. It's either a 4 solid 6 it's either a 4 solid 6 logic or a 6 solid 8 logic. I don't remember exactly. 16 gigs of RAM. I have a 4 terabyte hard drive and a 500 gig SSD, and I have liquid cooling and a couple fans in there that are LED. They had a couple deals going on for back to school, so I upgraded from a 1070 to a 1080 for free. So I paid a 1070 price and got a 1080, and I got a 4 terabyte hard drive for the price of a 2 terabyte hard drive. So I saved a couple $100 in the process of getting this. So it just took forever to fucking get here. I remember it took 2 weeks, I think, from the build it. I was so fucking giddy, dude. It was like every Christmas put together times 1,000 while I was waiting for this bitch to come in. But again, it's also it's made us able to do what we do now, which is nice, and it's an investment. Next thing on the list is getting better equipment. I want better microphones. I want stands for them all. So just the audio sounds better for you guys, which it doesn't sound bad. But like last week, I was me and Caitlyn. I had to figure out a way for us to record sitting next to each other where we're not fucking, the mics are picking each other up. And it sounds shitty. Like we're in a fucking echo chamber or whatever. So, but out of all that tech, I know you guys don't care about that stuff. I'm just a tangent. But, I'm thinking games. We played Final Fantasy. Getting excited for Siege and its update coming up. We have the Outbreak actually starting tomorrow when this comes out on Tuesday, which is pretty exciting. And that's about it. I haven't really seen any movies. Wicked was cool. What about you, Shawn? You been doing anything interesting?
No. After the horrendous week I had, I watched. I suffered through some sort of Lovecraft-inspired, extremely low-budget, attempted to be horror comedy that was garbage.
Was that Mute that you were talking about?
Huh?
Was that Mute?
No, not Mute. No.
I heard
held
Mute
off
was
on
garbage.
Mute is a movie that takes place in the same world that Moon did. That one from about like 8 years ago or something like that with Sam Rockwell. And actually, Sam Rockwell and the clones are in Mute on TVs and stuff like that. It ties the universes together. But Mute's kind of a cyberpunk thing.
I heard it was
And
bad.
as far as I've heard, it's really good.
Oh,
I've heard it's good. I like the director, the guy who made it.
Okay.
Big fan of his stuff so far. I haven't watched Mute yet, but it looks good. I have no comments on that, but I did watch all of the first 2 seasons of Ash vs. Evil Dead, which was awesome.
Yeah,
That was my happy
They have a
place.
3rd season coming out, right?
Yeah, the 3rd season's actively going on right now, but I
Oh,
don't
okay.
have stars, so
Oh,
I
fuck.
just got to rejoice that I got to watch it on Netflix. I watched all of Land of the Lustrous first seasons, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. It's kind of a different sort of show, so
Yeah.
I know you guys touched on it a little bit a few weeks back,
I
and I had not
said
touched on it
I
yet.
was going to, and I'm like 2 episodes out from finishing it, sadly. Because I did not expect my Sunday to
I like
be
it.
as long
It's
as it was.
it's
No, it is. It's
kind of
very
a
good.
drama mystery. I wouldn't say drama mystery. It's different. I know you've heard me say it's a little bit of a deconstruction of the whole Care Bears, My Little Pony kind of idea, where you have this isolated tribe of extremely similar individuals who are all, very similar in what they do and very similar in their focus, and they have a very narrow worldview because of limited exposure. And so when something kind of happens, it's outside of what they're used to. It just throws everything in a flux, and then you're kind of left with this mystery, and you're seeing the mystery through the eyes of the main protagonist. And I really like. It doesn't try and cater to a specific audience. It's more focused on telling the story it wants to tell, and I kind of would find that interesting. It's just different. It's very different.
Oh, yeah.
And I started watching The Ancient Magus Bride, which just blew me fucking away. Like I can't even begin to sing the praises of the show. Now, bear in mind, I've only watched the OVA, which, as far as Crunchyroll has it, the OVA is the first 3 episodes, but it was originally released alone before the show was approved, kind of like as a test pilot.
Yeah.
And it's got an extremely high production budget. It watches a bit like an older Ghibli picture, where it's got some darker overtones. It deals with some very real abandonment issues. You've seen recurring things in anime where when their parents die, they get shuffled between other family members' homes, and it doesn't always work out so well. And this has been kind of a recurring issue in Japan. When someone's family does pass away all at once, they're not always wanted by other families. You also see that in some American stories, some Western stories as well. And it tackles that without pulling any punches. And it shows you how it impacts the child's psyche. But at the same time, you've got this whole sixth sense thing going on where she can see what other people can't see. And that's one of the reasons why everybody pushes her away and she pushes them away. It's, she's not eating because she sees this little monster on the dinner table. She's not going, doing everything she should be in school or at home, because every time she turns a corner, there's another goblin or monster there that's terrifying the shit out of this little girl. And so you see like how that how that messes with her. So it doesn't just tell the fairy tale, but it also handles it in kind of a real way.
Yeah.
Like you see legitimately how it kind of impacts her, and it's kind of, I find it very interesting, and I like the fact that they don't pull any punches there.
That reminds me of a anime me and Caitlyn watched quite a bit ago called Kotoro-san, and it was about this girl, and that kind of the same where it was originally her mother and father were together, and she had an ability where she can read people's minds, but she had held it her entire life. So the thing is growing up naive as a child, she didn't really understand what it was, like what it did. So to her, it felt like someone was speaking out loud. And she would sometimes, being a kid, she would utter it back. And she ruined her marriage in that effort. Now, again, you could look at the marriage and say that might have not been a strong enough marriage in the first place. So you can't really blame it all on her. But she brought into light things that were supposed to be hidden, and like her and this all happens in the first episode, and it's just her growing up with this, and to a point where her mother is divorced by her father, and her mother straight up looks her in the eyes and tells her, like, I wish you were never born, like, I don't want you as my daughter, and just like, you watch like the breakdown of this child that is just, it's almost like, because again, it's just naivety of being like young and innocent and not knowing any better, and just her just getting beat down. And like, she has a point finally where she was taking care of this cat on the street, and she like had brought it food, and eventually she finds it one day while it's raining, and it's like dead, it died, and she just like fucking snaps, and this is all in the first episode, and she's just like screaming in the rain like a 9-year-old girl. It was really fucking dark, and it hits hard. And the rest of the show is, it's kind of like a high school drama where it's her dealing with this ability, and no one likes her. It was a really good show. It's
very much like that. It's very
it reminds me of that.
It kind of punches you in the gut. And what I really love about it is the artwork, the backing artwork, the character design, the music. There's this massive attention to detail. And one of the things that you and I both admire a great deal about a show is not so much the production budget, but how they invest that budget. And it feels like you're watching a movie. The only thing that breaks that illusion is the credits roll. You know, like, the animation's extremely smooth. They're using a lot of frames of animation. There's the music is fucking amazing. It's brilliant. It doesn't have any synth. It doesn't have any, like, I don't know, it's very classical.
Yeah. Ghibli.
And just everything. Yeah, exactly. It's very, no, the animation doesn't look Ghibli. It's not the big eyes, round face thing. Although they do use super big eyes, especially on the main character.
I've seen pictures, and I mean, at least the design of her kind of reminds me of like a shoujo, like manga, in the way that she's designed her face at the very least. I haven't seen the other characters.
Yeah, it's drawn a lot shoujo. The only thing is you don't have the super feminine, narrow faces on the guys. But, I mean, within the first 3 episodes, you're already witness to 2 tragedies. The multiple tragedies that happen in her life, and then tragedies in something else that she ends up taking part in by complete accident. And everything is handled with a certain amount of poignancy. So not only is it just a fun fairy tale to watch, it's awesome escapist entertainment, but it's got a lot of depth to it, and it's just super satisfying. And for the same reason that you like things like Ghibli, and you like things like A Silent Voice, and a lot of the other ones that you and I have both fallen in love with, you will love this show. I know for a fact you're going to dig it. It's got the Kyle loves this tick box going down.
Oh yeah. Well, I've heard of it. The thing I would say about it
is it burns slowly. It's a slow moving plot.
Okay, I've heard of it prior, and there's an anime podcast that I listen to, the Anime Addicts Anonymous. Fantastic podcast. I love those hosts so much. They're so knowledgeable about everything Japan related, media, history, stuff like that, the economy, everything about it. And they're just awesome. Their taste align with mine, and probably yours too, for the most part, because we usually like the same shows. They're much they're more veteran fans of just anime in general. And what they'll do is they actually take the time. They watch every show mostly every show. They kind of narrow them all down, and then they vote for them and see which ones end up getting reviewed at the end of the season. So I usually go to them for a lot of my tastes, and they highly praise that show. I just never got around to it. It's in my backlog, my big ass fucking anime backlog list that I haven't gotten all the way through yet. So
same here.
Yeah.
It's only on its 20th episode right now. It's new. I think it started in, I want to say the OVA dropped between October and November, the 3 episodes. And then I think the series kicked off like about a month or 2 later, December or January.
Okay.
Whatever 20 weeks ago was.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be less than 20 weeks ago, because the first 3 there's only 20 episodes, and the first 3 are the OVA, so the first 3 aren't even the TV series.
Yeah, I know you and me were talking earlier about watching it tonight, and I'm still down to do that. We can do that after we record. So
it's so good.
Yep, making plans while recording. All right. So I'm glad you had a good week, or relatively good week.
I had a good weekend.
Okay, that's good. And we're here again, yet again, another week. We're glad all of you out there tuning in could join us, whether you're doing it through Spotify, YouTube, Audioboom, whatever means. We appreciate you guys coming back every week to check us out and see what's going on in everyone's life here. And again, we love hearing from all you guys too. So if you ever feel the need to connect, this is a segue into the housekeeping. Hey, if you ever feel a need to connect with us here at the Thought Patrol podcast, want to see what's going on with us, or you just want to talk and hang out, we do have a Discord. We have a couple community members in there. Feel free to stop on by, say hi, and just hang out with us. We'd love to hear from you guys. Also, if you have anything that you hear in this podcast, you have an opinion on the VR when we get to that, or something that we talk about down the line, feel free to leave a comment below if you're on YouTube. We love hearing from you guys. Also, if you want more of our content, we have our main hub is YouTube, where we do Let's Plays and things of that sort on top of the podcast that comes out every Tuesday. Or you could subscribe on any of the podcasting services you're currently listening to, so you can get us every week and keep up to date with us. Also, we have a Twitter at ThoughtPatrolPD, where it's usually for dropping announcements, either a stream night that we intend on doing, or anything along those lines. Also, there's iTunes reviews. Actually, I'm going to pull up real quick iTunes and see if we have any reviews. Just going to check. But that is a good way to get real good brownie points with us, because that helps immensely. iTunes is a really big podcasting outlet, and if you want to help us in any way, shape, or form, a review would be fantastic. You don't even have to type anything. You could go on there. I know iTunes is a cancerous program to install, but you could go on there, fucking type, or just hit the 5-star button, and it will just give us a review, and it looks better in things. Yeah.
And thing.
It's because I'm trying to look it up.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Okay, yeah, no review. That's cool. It lets me know the popularity of the episodes. Whoa, 1 second. I haven't used this before. Apparently, episode 28 is mad popular. Let's talk Elsagate. That episode's popular everywhere. It's one of our most listened to episodes. On Audioboom, it has almost 1,000 listens. Apparently, it's really popular over here on fucking... I'm glad that one's popular, because that episode was pretty decent. Although that was just me and Sam, so... How's that? That's interesting to think that someone that might have listened in has never heard your voice, Shawn. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for that person.
And that was one of those times that I couldn't make it either.
Yeah, I think...
One of the few times.
I don't know if I think that might have been one of the, like, a missed Sunday, kind of, and we had to do it on Monday and you had to work. I think that might have been what it was. I don't remember exactly.
I believe so.
Okay. Now... There was something I was going to say. Oh, streams. I was talking about streams. Side tangent real quick. We streamed a little bit ago. I was playing this game called Please Love My Computer Game. And it's like one of these, it's like a really weird puzzle. Like, it's weird because puzzle, you think like fucking, you're in a room and you have to find a key and do something. No, this is like cryptic, like ARG style puzzle shit. And with like a whole community trying to figure it out. So I streamed that, and it was me and I know Sam came by and Funny Guy came by, and we just kind of chilled and just tried to figure shit out. And I discovered there are more EXEs hidden within the game's files and stuff. Very interesting. It might even still be up on Twitch. I don't know how long they keep VODs, but I have it set to kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, I can't think of the word. I don't know. They like log anything we do. So that's there. It might be there. But it's just a really interesting game. It's really weird. It kind of has like a horror sense to it. A lot of the music's weird. But I was enjoying what I was getting from it. So 1 second. I do this all for fucking Sam. I do this for Sam. I do this for you, Sam. This sucks. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna cut it in afterwards. Fuck it. What time is it?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm not sure either. It's the pain med kicking in. I'm losing all sense of focus. So, never mind. We're going to move on to our mailbag. Let's get back on track here. Sorry for that. So we got 2 questions today. I actually haven't read these prior. I just copy and paste them into the document. It's been a busy day today. But our first question is actually from Sam. He's changed his name. We had this weird ass like fucking superhero arc take place in our Discord, where Funny Guy changed his name to Reverse Flash. So Sam's name is the Flash. It was the Flash 2182, and Funny Guy changed his name is to the Reverse Flash. I think we talked about this last week, like 2980 something. He put in a question with that name, and there was this huge fucking thing that happened. But now Sam's changed his name to Barry Allen. So I don't know. They worked their things out. There was a fight that ensued in text.
Well, that's still the Flash.
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. So I don't know.
The more popular one.
But that's that. So this is still the Flash, but his name is not Barry Allen. So he said, "Shalom, good friends. I have a question that may be..."
Is he Jewish now?
Yeah. No, it's because he knows that everyone thinks that I'm Jewish, even though I'm not.
So yes, because of the fro.
He's antagonizing me. I don't even have the fro anymore. It got cut out or cut off.
No,
the fro
blasphemer.
Yeah, I know, right? I do have.
I love the fro.
Think. Fuck. Okay, if you want to picture what I look like, think. What's that dude from Superbad? With the curly hair.
Which
Superbad?
The fat one?
Yeah, the fat curly hair dude from Superbad. That was me in fucking early high school, late middle school. I'm not fat anymore. I wouldn't say I'm fat. I'm overweight, but I wouldn't say I'm fat. And I had curly hair, shit like that. No facial hair till a bit later. But I've kind of like thinned out and grew taller, so I don't look like the typical.
Jonah Hill thinned out and grew taller too. Well, he didn't grow taller, but he thinned out.
Yeah. So with my hair fully grown out, if I don't like cut it after a long time, the fro will reemerge, and it's curly hair and shit. So people often think I've been often thought of to be a Jew multiple times, even from people that don't know about it being a fucking joke. So it's ridiculous. But that's that. So he's antagonizing me. That's what Sam's doing. That's okay, though. I'll get him back. So, shalom, good friends. I have a question that may be to your liking. Maybe. Do you feel bogged down by the sheer number of games available to play? It seems like only 20-some odd years ago, there were a few titles here and there, but now it's astronomical. Are you tantalized by the selection of games? Whether it be the master race of PC or the peasants of consoles, or are you overwhelmed by the deep-throating of content available for consumption? Love to hear your thoughts.
Go beyond! Plus!
And what I'm going to do is take what I just said and layer in the sound clip, because I was looking for it prior and I couldn't fucking find it because he says Q soundboard, Kyle. I might just buy it. It's got to have somewhere that sells a thing that has a speaker on it and buttons, and I could assign things to it that will make the buttons play notes.
It's called an app, Kyle.
I couldn't find one. I looked for a My Hero Academia soundboard app, and I couldn't find one. I guess I might have not been looking hard enough, but I looked for one. I really did.
I have one on my phone.
I guess I might have not really cared at that moment or something. I might have only went like a couple down or something. I don't know. So Shawn, you kind of gave your answer.
Yeah, I'm not even remotely.
Have you ever felt overwhelmed? Because like I know in our in the recent year that we just went through, there was a lot of games that came out, and I know you still have some that you have to fucking play. Persona 5.
I have like hundreds that I have to play, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel overwhelmed at the moment because I'm just not interested in playing anything else that I have. But
okay. So you just kind of go with the flow.
I mean, I have such a huge backlog, and it actually gets stressful when you realize all the things you want to experience and what you can and can't experience given the constraint of time. So I just stopped worrying about it because I used to have enough time and I don't really understand what happened. I think part of it was a loss of my transportation, but I used to have enough time to party as much as possible and socialize with all my friends and still get hours and hours of video games in. I would video game on work nights and, all night, until I needed to go to sleep. I'd get hours and hours of video game in, and I basically play one game until it was beaten. Sometimes I would have two games. I'd have my off game when the one game started to melt your brain a little too much. And I'd switch to something else and play that for a while. And that was usually something a little less thought intensive. Like I'd go back and forth between, say, Final Fantasy and Devil May Cry or something like that,
Yeah.
And then I started buying so many games that I couldn't do that so much. And then it got to the point where games got cheaper or more accessible at cheap prices, because now they're constantly putting stuff on sale, and the digital market made things easier to get a hold of. And then I finally got online actually just before I met you. I didn't used to want to play online games because I couldn't afford internet and I couldn't afford a subscription. And right now, if I was entirely responsible for the internet, I wouldn't be playing online. So the online thing, I hated the fact that it was mandatory for so many things, but ever since I got up with the group, I purchased 10 or 15 games at least, with the idea of us playing together as a group that I never would have purchased on my own. Like the was it Left 4 Dead clone?
Oh, Vermintide.
All these other games, that I purchased for the express purpose, either because we all agreed on it or because I thought you guys would get into it. So I have this huge catalog of games that I bought specifically for that purpose, and then you've got all these retro games that I buy just to have with the intent of playing again, but not knowing when I'm going to have the time, because nowadays I work, I get home, I have enough time to play one, maybe two games for a little bit, and then you sleep, you get up, you go to work again.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's less time in the day to do what I want to do. I haven't figured out why yet, because it's not like I'm sleeping any more than I used to, and it's not like I'm not used to having a lot of games, because I've had a lot of games ever since like PlayStation 2 days, PlayStation 1 days. I used to go out once a month and buy a game. I'd buy at least two CDs a month, and sometimes 12, and I'd buy one or two games a month, and I'd have at least one of them beaten by the end of the month, not counting whatever else I happen to be playing at the time. But I just, for some reason, I don't know if the games don't take longer to beat now. They're shorter than they used to be, but for whatever reason, I just don't get as much accomplished as I used to. That's why it's kind of been, even this weekend, man, I've had 5 days off, and I've played one game continuously. And the game I'm playing isn't the kind of game where you beat it after 40 hours or 70 hours or 20 hours.
Yeah, I checked my playtime last night, and it just hit 10 days, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm just starting the goddamn expansion.
Do you remember what the thing was to do that?
It's just / playtime. We're talking about Final Fantasy 14, for those of you who didn't pick up on that. The thing is with a computer, now that I have one, there is a huge market that has been opened to me that I did not have previously. Now, I used to have a big issue with stuff like this. Now, it doesn't necessarily pertain to games, pertain to just media in general, where I used to worry, like, there's something I've missed at one point that's probably going to hit in my top 10 favorite things of all time that I've ever experienced once I experience it. But the thing about that is I just don't know it exists. But I got to a point where I just kind of go through life, and then if it falls in my lap, it does. And I used to have a big issue with that in like anime. I'd say especially coming onto the scene, I guess kind of late. I mean, it was the start of high school. And I've accrued a backlog just through word of mouth, but I was always that thought that like there's something that I've missed either this season that was really good, and I've missed it and shit, and there's nothing I could do about it because I don't know. And that thought always kind of existed in the back of my head. Don't know why. Just kind of laid there, but eventually got to the point where I just don't pay attention to it anymore because there's literally nothing I can do about it. And my mind has its moments where it will like make itself paranoid to the point where it physically stresses me out, and I have to stop it. And it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Just doing anything, I'll think myself to death a lot of the time. So I just have to stop myself from doing that. But yeah,
23 days, 13 hours, 19 minutes, by the way.
Okay. 23 days, so that's fucking
13 hours, 19 minutes.
So 10 days is 240 hours, so you're at almost 500 hours in that game. Working there.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But unlike everyone else, most of the grind doesn't bother me. This Atma weapon shit's frustrating. The Zodiac weapon, but mostly because it's do this. Okay, do this again. Okay, do this again. Okay, do this again. Okay, do this again. Like 500 fucking times.
Yeah.
The book part is fucking frustrating, and you got to do this for every single weapon.
All right.
I get it. They're super attractive weapons, but
Sam didn't ask us about the Final Fantasy 14 grind.
That is true. Sorry, Sam. So I guess my response is, after a long time, I just had to force myself to stop caring, or else you just start. It's like when you don't have money and a lot of cool stuff's coming out, and you really want to be able to play it, but you can't and be responsible. It gets depressing.
Yeah.
So after a while, you kind of have to just nut up, so to speak, and force yourself to not give a shit. Or you know what I'm saying?
I've never fucking heard nut up.
Yeah, nut up.
I've
You
never
ever heard nut up before?
I've never heard nut up.
Seriously? Yeah, nut up, sack up. You know.
I've heard sack
Stop
up,
being a little bitch.
but I've never.
It's the same thing.
Nut up.
It's the medication, people.
That
Don't worry.
So fucking stupid. Sorry. Nut up. Listen here, Sonny. You're gonna have to wipe off your knees and just nut up. Get out there, tackle some people or something.
Wipe off your knees. What the fuck did you get on and brush yourself off and get up? What, wipe off? What are you, kneeling sperm?
Nut up. Nut up.
Wipe your knees off, boy.
Wipe your knees off, boy. It's not
Yeah, nut up. Nut up or shut up. Yeah, nut up actually was around before sack up, if I recall.
Never heard nut
But
up.
it might be the opposite. I don't know.
Sometimes I'll see that word in public and just it'll give me a small burst of enjoyment just seeing that word. Like I saw an ad for pistachio and it said the mindful nut and just that phrase just gave me enjoyment. Just reading that phrase, the mindful nut. And yeah, that word is just a funny word. So, question. We have a question we're answering. Yeah, it's kind of like how Shawn said. I think it can be easily overwhelming if you decide to sit on it too long. But I'm always excited to experience something new, and I think having multiple avenues to do that with a Switch, PlayStation, and a PC is nice. And but yeah, there are times where you just get fucking bogged down. There's a lot to do, especially last year. We had a lot coming out within short times of each other. We had one time where literally Wolfenstein 2, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Mario Odyssey all came out on the exact same fucking day. If you want all three of those games, what do? And you have to obviously make sacrifices here or there.
It's $200 worth of game.
Yeah, it's crazy. And especially
not counting DLC and shit.
Yeah.
The pre-order.
So yeah, definitely it's something that it's like you're kind of feathering a gas pedal. You're kind of figuring out exactly how hard you go. I used to have a lot more time. I used to work nights. I'd go to school in the morning and then I had the rest of the day to do whatever the fuck. And then there was a little bit of sleep mixed in between. But I could still say I have a shitload of time to do stuff. I just sacrifice sleep to do it. But yeah, a lot of it is coming down to kind of just, I had that issue. It physically stressed me out and I just had to stop doing it. And again, like Shawn says, I had to nut up and just work my way through it that way. But it is nice, especially now as we move forward. It's easier for people that don't necessarily have a lot of money to still make a very good quality product, and it's awesome seeing everyone's ideas culminate into something cool. And just having that either get big with other people or finding a hidden gem or something that was long forgotten that you re-stumbled upon, and just really awesome. And yeah, I love video games. They're so cool. To kind of,
I have a paranoia issue with it now because you buy games thinking you could play them later. So I buy a lot of these like indie games that are really good on sale, and then I'll plan on getting around to playing them later. And I did that with the Wii U, planning on investing in a collection of a lot of the cool indie games because they had a really great indie game market. They embraced indie games before anyone else did as full force. Like Nintendo dove straight in with the Wii U. It was one of the huge benefits of the Wii U is you had this really great indie game market, and they had all this interesting stuff coming out, and then PlayStation blew them out of the water. But it was still a really good platform for indie games. They had a lot of great indie games that made much better usage of the touchscreen than most of your AAA stuff. And the Wii U is a solid system. It's not super powerful, but it was such a good system that nobody took advantage of. And I trusted Nintendo and spent all this money on the games, and now the fucking thing's collecting dust because they're not supporting it. And I can't go on and have these great, because they even released some really great multiplayer games. They had this one game that came out of Japan where you play part of a squad that tomb raids, and you got to bolt into this tomb, find your way through it, survive all these traps, take down this boss, grab the treasure, and then you got to carry the treasure out of the dungeon. And it's basically like skipping straight to the raid section of an MMO and just playing those.
okay.
And the dungeons are randomly generated, so you never know what you're going to be getting into. And supposedly it was really well made, but if you buy the game, nobody's playing their Wii U anymore. You got a really small audience, mostly kids and people that are too poor to buy new systems. They're not buying these games. They're playing whatever they have left. It's a dying market. It's not fair, and it's very frustrating to me because
you could still play
to stick the system.
So if you buy all those games, you can still hop onto your Wii U and still play the game, though, right? It's not been taken from your possession, though.
Not yet, no. But a lot of those games are server reliant.
Okay.
Just like the games on PlayStation, and when the support for the Wii U is completely pulled, you won't be able to play them. So you spend money on these things, you get to play them a little bit, and then the company just abandons you. Like the Vita. That rages me to no end. A solid, great handheld with very few flaws being that back touchpad thing that was useless. But it's just a powerful, functional, everything that they said it was unit. It was just like I wouldn't say it was as powerful as a home console, but it's the closest anybody's ever had to having a home console in their hands prior to to what Nintendo did with the Switch.
Yeah.
This was the Switch before the Switch was a Switch, and instead of supporting it like they should have, they put buggy first-party software on there. Most of the games didn't play well. They didn't put a lot of effort into them. They fucked it really, really bad with that first-party memory stick thing, where they charged ridiculous amounts for it. It was something like 400 times the cost of a standard SD card, which could hold just as much information. And I think that was the biggest thing. They made this great platform and then stabbed it to death by getting too greedy. So I've got this system that plays great games, that's extremely powerful, that has a great screen, great controls. There's very little wrong with it. It's everything that it could have been. And because of Sony botching it and fucking it over and over and over and basically abandoning it before it even had a chance, I'm left with a system I can barely play. I can't afford to buy a $200 fucking memory stick to try and hold all the games that I want to put on it. And the thing is it's still doing great in Japan. It's solid. It's still a great competitor against the Switch. It's doing an awesome job. there were so many things they could have easily done with it, and like every step of the way, they just did stupid shit and made stupid decisions. There's a guy on YouTube that I really like. He writes essays, and then he takes the essay and he puts it into a YouTube video, and he narrates this video, and he puts stuff up, and he basically does this little expose, and it always starts with this blue VCR screen, and then his face pops up, and he brings up the topic and so on. I don't remember what his name is, but he did it perfectly. Like he does it. He has a series of like this game didn't die, it was murdered.
Yeah, I've
or
seen
this
those
system
videos.
didn't die, it was murdered. That
Yeah.
guy. He did one for the Vita that was perfect.
Well,
And it enrages me because just like the Wii U, you have a system that wasn't marketed right. It wasn't handled right. They didn't support it right. And then they just left it out to die because they had Big Daddy PS4 bringing them plenty of money and they didn't need to fucking worry about it.
oh. Well,
So they gave a market
from-
that they could have taken to the Switch.
yeah, from what I
Because the PSP was the number one competitor, and it did very well
it did
against the 3DS.
I'm-
It did super well against the 3DS. By all comparisons, it did very well. There's no reason the Vita didn't succeed except for Sony. Sony was the only reason.
I understand. Well,
Sorry,
I don't
done
think
ranting.
I agree that it was a good console and it failed. It pulled a Wii U or something where, well, not as bad as a Wii U, but it just wasn't marketed correctly, or either the gaming community didn't want it at that time. But it only sold.
The community wanted it.
It only pulled
Just so
as of
fuck.
March of last year. It only sold 10.5 million units,
Yeah,
which is
it's
eighth
Sony's fault.
of the PSP's sales, and a
Yeah, I know.
fifth of the 3DS.
It's,
I'm just saying it's
fucking shameful.
because you said that
There's no excuse.
you said that it was still doing good, but I think it's
No, in Japan, it's still selling. It's still performing.
this is worldwide sales, so it's not doing good.
Japan's not a great country, but it's still successful in Japan.
Okay. I'm just fact checking that because I don't think at least sales is doing well because I've heard from multiple sources that it isn't. But I'm not saying that the system's bad. I'm just saying it wasn't properly done, like you were saying. All right, another tangent out of the way, I guess. I hope we answered your question there, Sam. Let us know what you think, dude. I know I talk to you all the fucking time, so it's not a big deal. But for those of you tuning in, what do you guys think about that? Also, to flip the question, have you ever had a time where, even though there was stuff coming out, you just didn't want to play games? Which has happened to me before. Just don't have a want to play a game or just play anything in general. Either do something else, hang out with family, friends, something like that. Let us know what you guys think. So, moving on to the next question because we're like an hour in and we still got like a main topic and shit to get to. So, this is from Funny Guy. So he's given us a little a tidbit of his past. When he was, Funny Guy say, so when I was about 13, I went through a cowboy phase. Living in a small town and owning horses, it was practical. Anyway, one night I said, "Oh shoot," not "oh shit," just "oh shoot," and my dad snapped at me for it. Not 3 minutes later, my younger sister, 9 or 10 at the time, says the same thing right next to my dad with zero repercussions. So, what great injustice has been done unto you by your family? It fucking escalated very
Oh
quickly.
dear God, my family's so dysfunctional. I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
Just give me one example of a great injustice.
Having a codependent mother,
Okay.
manipulate the shit out of your life your whole life. That's a start.
Okay. We're not going to get too deep with this. I don't want to
No,
make this until you
understand,
cry.
like-
No, I got you.
no, I'm not. It's not a crying situation. I'd probably say that would be one. Like, having somebody either intentionally or subconsciously throw roadblocks into your progression would be one.
Yeah. Great injustice. I'm not entirely sure. I mean,
Leave it up.
I wouldn't say that my family's awful or great. We're kind of just a normal. We have normal levels of dysfunction, normal levels of happiness or whatever. I wouldn't say anything's excellent or the opposite. But I'm thinking a great injustice. I've had, I mean, my sister has a better car than I do, but that's partially my fault. I don't know. Great injustice. Fuck. I'm thinking of something even small that's happened. I remember when I was younger, we used to go to Dairy Queen all the time, and we'd get like dip cones and shit. I don't remember what we were coming from, but we just go at night and get dip cones. And I remember one time my mom had told us like all weekend, because we were like really good, that we're gonna go get ice cream. But I don't remember, again, being a young kid, I didn't fully understand everything that was going on at the time. So something bad happened. I don't remember what it was. And we didn't go get ice cream. And like I was like fucking distraught because we weren't going to Dairy Queen that day, and I'd looked forward to it all weekend. And I was not a happy camper that day. Which probably didn't help the situation fully. Again, not fully grasping what was going on. Probably didn't make my mother any happier. But I guess that could be considered a great injustice, not getting my fucking dipped cone at Dairy Queen. I can't think of anything though. My grandma dropped me when I was young, like a baby. Like, you consider that an injustice?
You're reaching.
Yeah, I am reaching.
Like,
I'm thinking.
Your family seems fairly well balanced to me, man. I think you've gotten off pretty okay there.
Yeah, we're normal, typical white people. It's probably the best way to describe this family over here. Nothing too out of the ordinary, or vice versa. So I can't think. But since he kept it in a way like a topical joke, or just trying to ask a question, that's what I was trying to come up with. I did not flip it joking direction. Asked the question.
Like, I'm going to go serious.
He asked the question straight.
Funny guy's question. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
Nah,
my car was another one. That was another fairly serious injustice.
Yes. That was done to you by your family, though?
No, I'm thinking, I'm trying to think. And here's the injustice. My family gave me a shitty fucking, what's the fucking thing? Metabolism.
Oh,
that is huge. That fucking.
That's a good answer.
That makes
shitty metabolism.
Shitty metabolism.
I have history of heart disease, high cholesterol,
those bastards,
cancer, and
I got the cancer.
And what was the last thing? I think it was eye issues. All of this, and it all came from my mother's side of the fucking family.
Yeah, dude,
so
we got
bad.
Screwed there, man. We both got fucked up eyes.
Actually, I think my dad
probably gonna have cancer.
My dad has heart issues. My dad's family has heart issues too. So I'm just a ticking time bomb, dude. And I don't live my life the healthiest, but I'm not like fucking going ham on disgusting food. Not all the time, at least. There's every once in a while I'll go get some disgusting food and chow down. That's a good injustice. The heretic injustice.
Bastards.
Yeah, damn straight, dude. I can't believe them passing that on to me. So yeah, I might drop dead in like 30 seconds. Yeah. You never know. That'd be an interesting podcast episode. Actually, it would never even hit your guys' like, because Caitlyn doesn't know how to fucking edit these things or put them anywhere. So
yeah, I think
that would be lost.
That'd be the last thing on her mind. Be like, oh shit, gotta
upload the podcast.
Kyle's last wish.
Yeah, damn straight. So if it ever does stop for like a month or something and we're not podcasting, you know exactly what happened. Kyle passed away. Ooh, excuse me.
I'll have to go on to hack my way into the
main
Twitter feed. Be like, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, Kyle Dad. Here's a picture. It's right here.
We love you. Here's a picture. Kyle Dad, here's a picture.
It's right here. Fell off the damn second floor, whatever. However he died. I
don't really know what happened. I haven't talked to anybody. Every time I call Caitlyn, she's crying, and then says something about 2 fingers.
If I ever have a heart attack, I want it to be like while I'm on a. Actually, no, that wouldn't work. I was thinking like it'd be cool if it happened while I was on like a roller coaster, so my body goes limp, but I like eject out of the seat, and I'm just like a projectile that flies through the air. But then I'd be locked down anyway. They all have seatbelts now, so that wouldn't work. I'd just be like there limp when I get back. I can't.
I just realized, like, I adore you too, and I love you to death. You're a close friend of mine already, and I adore the shit out of Caitlyn, but I can't stop teasing her about the two fingers
Yeah,
thing,
she
which
was
may
telling me
very much jeopardize our close relationship.
she was telling me that she didn't want to come on the podcast anymore if we kept referencing that. Like
Oh
straight
my
up.
my God, we wouldn't be good friends if we didn't. That's the like it goes against the core tenets of who we are. It's so hard to not reference. And the thing is I know she can be just as dirty as us. How did she not think that? Like, how did it not register? How?
Yeah, how do you?
How did she not click in with, like, she's like, I just get my two fingers up there and, like, everybody loses it. How did she not? I mean, I don't understand. Like, something broke in her that day.
Yeah. All right. So I hope that answers your question, funny guy. All you tuning in, what great injustice has been done to you by your family? Get as deep as you need. We actually have a part in our Discord called Balls Deep Convos, and if you want to hop in there and start some deep fucking dark conversation, I'm down to hear that shit. All right. So that was mailbag. If you guys want to send in questions to the Thought Patrol, I've actually forgotten to say this like the last like 5 weeks, but if you guys want to send in questions to us for us to answer, you can do that a couple ways, through Discord in our mailbag section, or I think it's mailbag, something like that. You can send it to us on Twitter at with the hashtag TPMailbag. Send us to it at our email, which is in all this shit's in the description. Send us at our email at ThoughtPatrolcast@gmail.com, and just with all of them, do the just say question for mailbag or mailbag question or something like that, so we could include it in the podcast and answer it on air. So we're going to move into our game segment. I actually had an idea for a new segment we're going to do. It's not really a game, but it's just something that we can talk about when we don't want to be doing things like Urban Dictionary or shit like that. But this is, I don't know what I'm going to label this yet, because I literally thought of this like 2 hours ago. But for now, I'm just going to keep it at TIL, which is Today I Learned. And we're going to go over something that I found out that I thought was pretty interesting. Maybe something that you did not know, that you will now know. And you can say that you listen to people that usually talk about shit and dumb things on the internet taught you something new. So, apparently, Johnny Cash, which is a singer, for those of you who don't know, I hope you do know who he is. He was in the war. He was actually originally he was a decoder for during the Korean War. So with the outbreak of like the Korean War and stuff like that, Johnny Cash, I think around that time he's probably around like late teens, early 20s. He did what a bunch of fucking people did, usually at the start of every war. He listed in the Air Force on July 7th, 1950. I have just some notes here on my fucking piece of paper. After some basic training in Lackland Air Force Base and some
Lackland?
Yeah, and some technical training at Brooks Air Force Base, both in San Antonio, Texas, he was assigned to the 12th Radio Squadron of the U.S. Air Force Security Service in Landsberg, West Germany. Over his enlistment period, he rose to the rank of a staff sergeant and became a Morse code operator, intercepting Soviet Army transmissions. He apparently was pretty good at Morse code, from what I was reading off of this article I found. And he became like the leading man at this station, and he monitored Soviet communications. During the period, it was very important to his life and moving forward. Also, this was before, obviously, he became a singer. Apparently, a couple of these things inspired some lyrics for some of his songs. I know that he was inspired to write the iconic lyrics for the Folsom Prison Blues after seeing the film Inside the Walls of Folsom Prison. Also, while stationed in Landsberg, he created his first band, named the Landsberg Barbarians. I think finally, he was also the first American to hear of the news of the death of the Soviet leader. What was the Soviet leader at that time? Stalin. So he was the first person to hear and transcribe Stalin's death during the Korean War, which is pretty cool. So something that
Stalin?
Stalin.
Wasn't Stalin dead before then?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't.
Maybe not.
Stalin. No, when does Stalin? Let's Google it. I got a computer right in front of me. Stalin death. Stalin died in 1953. So yeah.
No.
Yep. We learned something new. So yeah. So Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was a fucking spicy boy transmitting Morse code messages from fucking Soviet forces, which is really cool. Something you didn't know technically about a popular person. Which is, I mean, obviously that's not something.
And the upside is the Soviets, thanks to dipshit who's in charge, are trying to be bad guys again. So, I mean, we may be back to days like that. We're entering a whole new Cold War thanks to that dickhead.
Who? Putin?
Yeah.
He's the current leader? Putin?
Yeah, Putin.
Every time
Putin,
I think of
keep
him
in mind,
as
dude,
like
Putin is ex-KGB. He was KGB under the old Soviet, before they switched over in the, what was it, late 80s, early 90s, Glasnost or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah.
When, not Gorbachev, when Gorbachev switched over from communism to, more of a democratic, or at least a democratic name nation. And now Putin, who wants the old ways back, the secrecy and the death and the murders and everybody being afraid of the Soviet. I don't know why he wants that, but he wants that shit back. So he wants to turn it back into a boys' club, and things are not good in Russia for anyone right now,
Saturdays.
Except for people Putin like.
Yeah. It's interesting. Every time I think of Putin, I just think of like him being like a meme, kind of.
Yeah, dude. Every time I think Putin, I think that one that shows like somebody photoshopped his face and Trump's face, one of those two gay dudes making kissy faces. Every time
I've not seen
Putin, I think that.
I've seen a couple things. There's the one where he's like, "Hello, all. I am gay, gay, gay." Something like that. And it's like that. It's like a whole fucking video of just Putin saying I'm gay, and it's like done to music, which is interesting. I don't know. I think of him as a meme. He might be a scary dude. I don't know.
What kind of a tyrant do you have to be for when somebody makes fun of you? Like, instead of laughing with them, like fucking, like Obama tried to on several. I mean, think what you will of the guy, but half the time when people poked fun at him, he either poked back with the same kind of tenacity, or he just laughed it off. And this dude's like, "What? You put a meme up of me? Let me put you in jail. You're a famous model. Yeah, in jail you go. That's where you're going.
Rip.
You're 12-year-old. You're going in jail. Have a nice day." Yeah, like that's so fucking bizarre to me.
To the dungeon.
Yeah, how do you live in our world, in the world that we live in, and with as many modern amenities and as much wisdom as we have to access from those who came before us, and we still have dildos like Kim Jong-un and fucking Putin and shit like that doing dumb shit with their countries and hurting people? It just boggles my mind. Like, it's so easy to not be a douchebag. It's so easy. And yet, boom, you have Trump and you have Kim Jong. I'm not putting Trump in the same category. I'm just saying he's kind of a douche. You have like tyrants like Kim Jong-il, and you've got Putin who's trying to catch up with him. Like, it just boggles me. Like, you look at the world around you, you're like, hey, this is what not to be. And these guys grew up and they're like, I want to be that. Yeah. I don't understand. I don't know how they're fucking how that logic works. It confuses me.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Fuck.
And I'm not trying to be political. That's dumb.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, that segment didn't go as well. I might have to like actually type a fucking script out next time I try to do it. But again, I thought of it like 2 hours ago. So there you go.
I had an idea for one. I thought about like it would take some research, but finding like just horrible, stupid articles in gaming, like stuff that Sarkeesian writes, things like that. And then taking the article and then rewriting it as a story that spoofs the article from a video game perspective, like using, like I did that one time with Mario and Peach, or Luigi or Kid Icarus, taking these characters and then sticking them in this fucking thing and then just screwing them both up.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. We're not big enough to. Might make an enemy or two, but I'm all about making enemies, man. That's where it's at.
Hey, enemies are free press, and I am more than happy to make enemies with Sarkeesian.
Yeah,
I
damn,
can argue, I can beat her arguments hands down, upside down all day.
Yeah, even if
Not to mention, people will flock out of the woodwork to jump in and throw punches at her. And not that I'm saying she deserves punches. It shouldn't be an undeserved punch, but anytime she opens her mouth and stupid falls out, feel free to fight that with logic.
Okay. Let's move a little bit forward here. We have barely progressed into the episode, and it's an hour and a half through. So, shit. We're going to move through real quick. We're going to move on to we're going to move on to our box office stuff real quick. See what's been going on in the box offices. So for the weekend of March 2nd to March 4th, we have at number 1, still sitting up there, Black Panther, pulling $66 million for the weekend, sitting at a total of $501 million on its third week. And for Marvel on a third week, I guess pulling $66 million is not too bad for a third week of Marvel. At number 2,
didn't Guardians come close to pulling that off?
I don't know, actually. I don't remember.
Anyway.
At number 2, we got Red Sparrow, which just started, pulling $16 million for the weekend, with a budget of $69 million, also sitting in its first week. For some reason, there's no budget for Black Panther. It's not reported on this website. At number 3, we have Death Wish 2018, pulling $13 million for the weekend.
I thought that might be cool.
Yeah, it did look pretty good, sitting at a budget of $30 million. In its first week. At number 4, we have Game Night pulling $10 million, sitting at a budget.
I want to see that.
Sitting at a budget of $33 million, or sitting at a total of $33 million with the budget of $37 million in its second week. And at number 5, we have Peter Rabbit, sitting at a total of $10 million for the weekend with a God, I'm fucking this up. Sitting at $10 million for the weekend with a total of $84 million. With a budget of $50 million in its fourth week. And at 6, which is a good, I've heard many good things about this movie, and it kind of sucks to see that it's kind of flopping. Annihilation pulled $5 million.
Is that out already?
Yeah, it's in its second week.
Oh, I gotta go see that.
Pulling $5 million for its for this week, and it's only in its second week. It's only pulled $20 million so far, so that doesn't bode well. It's got a budget of $40 million, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
I don't think it was advertised very well because I didn't even know about it until I watched a series of horror movie trailers on YouTube, and I saw the trailer for it. But it looks very much like an Aliens-esque kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard it gets kind of deep with like trying to make a statement about humanity or the way that we operate or think and stuff like that too. Again, it's stuff I've heard.
Well, science fiction does that.
Yeah.
And it is science fiction horror, so.
Yeah,
as long as they don't, like, lay off on the fucking fun stuff to try and choke that down your throat, because that's the key to doing good science fiction, is when the themes are woven into the plot, not when you stop to give the theme.
Yeah. It's like here is what we think about biomedically, or what the fuck was I going to say? Biologically engineered bunny rabbits to have dicks for feet. That's the theme.
I just pictured a rabbit with dick hands, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Someone give me that in Photoshop. I'll take it. I'll pay money for it, actually. And that's about it. Looking down the line, Greatest Showman sitting at $2 million at number 9. Jumanji is sitting at number 7 with $4 million. What else new came out? Foxtrot, which I'd never even heard of, started this week, pulling 31,000. Oh Lucy is new this week with 14,000. Death House, haven't heard of any of these films, sitting at 10,000. Let Yourself Go at 8,000. Yeah. So that's what's been going on. Those are the movies. Again, not a big surprise. Black Panther is still sitting at the top. Red Sparrow looked okay. I don't know. I've seen so many spy movies that I don't know if I care about seeing another spy movie. I don't know.
Yeah, and the whole like using women as a sexual seductress assassin thing has been done to
It's,
the
oh
teeth,
my God, it's
and
so
it's kind of
overdone.
it's like an old cliche, and I'm not one to, like, I mean, you know how I feel about like gender stereotypes are very much a thing, but it's not a thing like it's painted out to be in the general media. And I was at first I heard about it, I'm like, all right, cool, because I love Jennifer Lawrence and she's the hottest, and she's gonna be in a fucking spy movie. I'm like, sweet, we're gonna get a spy movie where it's not a chick fucking her way to kill people again, because I'm so fucking over those. I've seen La Femme Nikita all 14 times. It's a great movie in all of its versions, but I'm tired of that idea, like how I can seduce you, and then I'm going to get the answers, then I'm going to kill you with my vagina around your neck. And then they're like, Red
Dude,
Sparrow, and then all of a sudden they're capitalizing on her sex appeal instead of like her doing some fucking Lara Croft Tomb Raider spy shit. And I'm like, I
I
kind of
feel
wanted to see that.
now.
I wanted to see the destroyer with guns and doing cool shit and being smart. I don't know. I'm just tired of
Nothing,
the
nothing against Jennifer Lawrence, but her
no.
face always. Every time I see it, I feel like it's a little too round, kind of.
It does
Like
change
she's still
from
got a
movie to
little
movie
bit.
for
Like
some
she's still
reason.
got a little bit of baby fat going on, like in her
I kind of
cheeks.
like that on her though.
I don't know. It makes her look just like young, and it's. I don't know. Nothing wrong with that. It's just I don't know. It's just her face seems round, like almost like a
I'm
ball.
just tired of the sex
Oh
assassin
yeah,
thing.
no, yeah, it's
I
overdone
mean,
as
it's
shit.
for spank bank material. I mean, I'm sure the movie will supply
Abide.
in shame
Yeah.
and
Sean, I'm
but
gonna tell you, you
I
can't
just
fucking go into movie theaters and openly masturbate. You gotta stop that
sad
shit.
face.
It's not. That's
I
frowned.
just
That's frowned upon by the
at
general
least 8 people.
populace. Yeah, you can't do that.
I don't know, man. I thought it would be gonna, whatever. And I guess she does do some ass whooping, but I was just kind of
No, I
expecting
understand what you're
more
saying.
of that and less of the look at me in lingerie bit, because that's
It's the Atomic Blonde of
boring.
2018. Yeah. No,
I
I
thought
get you.
Atomic Blonde was more about ass whooping and less about tits.
I don't know. At least from I didn't see it, but from what I saw from the trailers, it felt like that. So
I heard it was like a female James Bond kind of thing.
I've heard that the choreography in it was really good, like the fighting and
I'll
stuff.
watch it probably whenever it
All right,
pops up on
all right.
Netflix.
Another fucking tangent. Let's move forward. God damn it.
This is the tangents are the point of this show, Kyle. When are you gonna understand?
Okay, listen here. All right, what to look for. So we got games coming out this week, guys. Got a couple things actually that might pique your fancy. On the 6th of March, which is tomorrow, we have Bravo Team coming to PSVR. That does not pique my fancy. We have Final Fantasy 15, the Royal Edition, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC on the 6th. We have Frantics coming to PS4 on the 6th. We have Scribblenauts Showdown coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch on the 6th. And we have Fear Effect
That'll be
Sedna.
good on Switch.
Fear Effect Sedna coming to PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch on the 6th.
They have a Fear Effect sequel coming out?
I guess so. I don't even know what the hell that
Didn't
is.
the last Fear Effect come out like 20 years ago?
I'm gonna Google it. And also, Outbreak starts
I'm
tomorrow.
exaggerating, but
All you Siege fans out there, so get pumped. Fear
I think
Effect.
Fear Effect was like early PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 1 days.
People are saying it's a very unexpected sequel.
Yeah, dude, Fear Effect wasn't that great a game. Anyway, I mean, I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it did. I mean, it was somewhat of a success. I think they made 2 of them, but it wasn't like I never knew anyone that had it. It wasn't like a runaway hit. It was just kind of like a sleeper hit. Like some people liked it just enough to make a sequel, but not enough to fucking break any records, at least
Fear
as I
Effect.
recall.
It came out in 2000, so yeah, getting
Yeah,
close
it's an
to
old fuck game.
18 years, man. Shit.
That's the sequel nobody asked for.
Yeah, there you go. So that's coming out on the 6th. Again, Outbreak starts tomorrow. Get pumped. I'm fucking excited to shoot some zombies in Siege, which is something I never thought I'd say, especially since usually Tom Clancy likes to keep it realistic and shit like that. So,
Tom Clancy's been dead for a long time, dude. He has nothing to do with this shit.
well, you know what I mean. Moving forward, we don't got a lot of news this week. Thank goodness, because we're running out of time. So we got a couple things real quick. Just a little bit of some accolades that were met. We have Monster Hunter World has broken yet another all-time record for Capcom sales. It continues to sell. This is Chris Pereira of GameSpot. We have before launch, Monster Hunter World seemed poised to be an important game for the franchise in a variety of ways. Between being more welcoming to newcomers and releasing for PS4 and Xbox One rather than a single handheld. God damn it.
Oh god, you high and painkillers. Xbox Run, baby! Run!
It had the opportunity to really explode. If there was any lingering doubt about that, you can now set it aside as Capcom has announced yet another sales milestone for the game. Having already set a new launch record for the series, Capcom has now shared that Monster Hunter World has become the best-selling game in the publisher's history. It has now shipped more than 7.5 million units when combining digital sales and units sent to retailers, but not necessarily sold through consumers yet. It's worth noting that Capcom appears to be comparing this milestone based on its list of all-time bestsellers. However, that list doesn't always combine sales for all versions of a single game. Resident Evil 5, for instance, is listed as Capcom's best-selling game as of December 2017, with 7.3 million sold. However, combining its releases on last-gen and current-gen, as well as its gold, it reaches 10.6 million. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah,
I was gonna say, like, there are. I like Monster Hunter, but it doesn't compare for me to the experiences I've had playing Mega Man or Mega Man X, or to Resident Evil, or to a number of other Capcom games.
It's not saying it's the best game ever. It just came out at a really good time. It's very welcoming to newcomers, and it's got a decent hook and grind to it. So that's just it. I think they released it at
Samurai game. Do you remember
Samurai?
It was like, yeah, it was Capcom made it. It was really good. And they made 3 of them. Third one was a little questionable, but no, hold on, they didn't make Ninja. No, Tecmo made Ninja Gaiden.
Oh.
Capcom made this game. It came out after Resident Evil and before, I want to say before Devil May Cry. And I think originally it was supposed to be Devil May Cry, and then it became its own thing.
Onimusha?
That's it, Onimusha.
You know what I did? I googled Capcom Samurai game. That's the first thing.
I would like to see the Onimusha series come back because those were badass.
That's
like if you think of like you're playing a samurai fighting like ghosts and demons with like Devil May Cry like controls, but with a thicker plot like they have in Resident Evil and some of the investigation stuff of Resident Evil. Like you kind of have something halfway in between those two games. Not quite as fast as Devil May Cry, but not as slow as Resident Evil. That's where Onimusha came in, and Onimusha was badass.
If you're willing to deal with like Dark Souls-esque gameplay, Neo is a very good game. I think you'd like that.
Dark Souls game really drives me nuts, but I will eventually try and play Neo. But
Neo's awesome. And
frustrating that you can't like have fun running through that.
And we got fucking what's it called coming up? The new Samurai game by it's not Samurai. Oh fuck, what's that game coming out soon? It's like shit. It's not Samurai, it's like ninjas, I think. But it's something. It's not of any help whatsoever. Games for 2019. This sucks. I can't remember this game.
Stealth Assassins would be cool to bring back too. Tenchu Stealth Assassins.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That was such a good game series.
I don't give a fuck about Anthem. Fuck. What was it called? Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima. That game looks fucking awesome too.
I did not hear of. I shall have to check.
I think that's what it is. Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima?
That Vampires game looks good too. It looks very much like a White Wolf Vampire the Masquerade game from back in the day, only with new graphics.
I would definitely check this game out. It's Sucker Punch that's making it, and they're awesome. And fucking this game looks really cool. It's like feudal Japan. It's supposed to be like the definitive feudal Japan open world 3D game.
But God damn it, you had to say open world.
Just try it. I can send you a trailer later. See what it looks like. It looks really cool. Do
they fight like demons and stuff, or is it just other samurai?
I think there's supernatural elements to it. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, good. Because I'm not interested in 100% realistic.
Wait.
Feudal Japan.
Samurai warriors, legendary defenders, until the fearsome Mongol Empire invades the islands of Tsushima, wreaking havoc and conquering the local population. As one of the last surviving samurai, you rise from the ashes to fight back. So I guess it is, well, not realistic, like as a sim, but it's not. I don't know if it's supernatural. It looks really fucking cool. I'll send you the trailer. We can talk about it later. All right, next article. We have It looks like Blizzard might be teasing Diablo for Nintendo Switch. This sounds very interesting. This is by Eddie Macick of GameSpot. They have been sending out tweets basically talking about okay, blah blah blah. Let me read the fucking thing. Blizzard has released cryptic teaser that some are taking as a signal that a Diablo franchise might be heading to the Nintendo Switch. A 6-second video posted on Twitter shows the famous Diablo demon as a nightlight that someone is switching on. Sweet dreams, says the video's captions. Many people in the replies on Twitter believe this might be a reference to some version of Diablo coming to the Nintendo's hybrid console. Among those who replied, many said they're enthusiastic about such a prospect and would buy Diablo for Switch right away.
Diablo's easy enough to down-res to fit a lower platform. It's not the first time they've done that.
I'm pretty sure Diablo 3 can play on the Switch. I have no doubts against it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be top, like, the sharpest, best graphics ever, but I'm sure they could put it on there.
Blizzard hasn't.
I don't remember the game having a large file install.
Oh yeah, no. Blizzard hasn't released any games for the Nintendo platform since it brought StarCraft to the 64 in the year 2000. So it's been
I forgot they put StarCraft on the 64.
Yeah. So it's been quite some time. As an update to this, it appears the cryptic tweak wasn't alluding to a Nintendo Switch version of Diablo. We can assure you we're not that clever. So people just took shit and took it out of perspective. And I didn't tell you guys the update because I wanted to let you think that something like that might happen and destroy your dreams. So that's not actually the case.
Now they have to do that, right? It's not like they can't. Well, my question is, why does Blizzard wait so fucking long to make new installments? Like, bear in mind, I understand there are certain fan bases that will play the same game over and over again.
Still people that religiously played Diablo 3, and I don't know how the fuck.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, look at Diablo 2, man. Diablo 2 was played fairly actively even into the release of 3.
Yeah.
Diablo 2 had a fairly consistent, I remember when I had more friends and people liked me, I would hear about LAN parties or people like, hey, we're going to do a Diablo 2 on Saturday. And I'm like, why would I played Diablo 2. I beat it with like 2 or 3 I fucking sick to death of that game. Like roguelikes, they suck. Like they're fun for, a few months, and then I never want to ever play them again. I don't want to see them. I don't want to hear about them.
If you look at
so repetitive.
Look at like vanilla WoW, which was being kept alive through like private servers, just because people wanted to like replay. And again, I think at that point a lot of it's nostalgia too.
Yeah, but there's also a very thick story, and it's a dense story in vanilla WoW.
But once you fucking know a story, no one's gonna go and
Diablo.
What I know, but once you know a story, you're not gonna fucking go back and do it again, especially in an MNO.
I replay old Final Fantasies.
MNO.
It's not all that
losing my mind, especially in an MMO environment. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh yeah, well it's a little bit different. I mean, it's grindier, I guess. But
I can understand.
You may have people like that, or maybe they like the mechanics. I don't know. I don't understand it. Like I'll tell you what, man. I love this Final Fantasy MMO to death, but once I played everything I want to play in it, I won't pick it up again. Once I play it, might take me a few years, but it's not like I'm doing the exact same thing every day. I'm constantly doing something that's a little bit different or a little differently or so on and so forth. But with Diablo, there's only so many ways you can play that game. And then you've done it all. And then you're just playing it again and again on a harder, trying to get better loot. Once you've shown me everything you can show me, I just lose interest. And it's not like it's a super competitive game in terms of, the MOBAs and things like that. I mean, you could do that to a degree, but I don't get it.
No, yeah, I understand. I don't either. Because I played it for a bit, and then fucking straight up.
You stumbled on that Monk Bells combo?
Hell yeah, dude! I fucking was a fucking nuke. I could destroy any room from a mile away and did billions of damage. It was awesome. But even at that point, I wasn't even done with the game, and I was like, I was kind of getting. I mean, if you're like, what is peons to a god? And there's like nothing I can do besides absolutely annihilate everything. That fun only lasts for so long. So, all right, let's move on to our main topic. Like I said, we're gonna be talking about VR a little bit, and my idea with this topic is not about not necessarily the technology of VR, but just VR as a concept and as an idea. Our opinions on it. Now, I know Shawn has had very minimal experience to VR, just in general, which is why we're more discussing the topic. I've had experiences with VR, and I think it's really cool, and that idea of just VR and that immersion that it allows for. But
I've used a fair amount of it. I just haven't gotten to play much games beyond like 5 or 10 minutes at a time.
yeah. So now when it comes to, okay, so for VR, the goal behind virtual reality is we're taking one factor of video gaming that's always existed, but we're notching it up to like 12, and that's the immersion. Games can still immerse you without having the screens tied to your face, right? And not having the movement one-to-one. You can get immersed through story, you can get immersed through world design, you can get immersed through realistic characters. That's always been something that has existed within video gaming, and I think that's something that video gaming does quite well, because you're not only experiencing something that is easy to escape to, but on top of that, you're controlling it. Like a movie, you don't have control of what's going on for the most part. You can still get immersed in a movie. A good story can immerse anybody. Good characters can immerse anybody, and they exist in all forms of media. It's that, but the special property that video gaming has is that you are in control to an extent of this story, this immersive experience. And VR is taking that and dialing the immersion to 12, because now not only are you controlling something, a story, or going through something, it's one-to-one, and in every element for the most part. Your body's one-to-one, your hands are one-to-one, and then what you're seeing is one-to-one. It pertains, and what I mean when I say one-to-one is that everything you do is being like reciprocated in the environment,
Echoed in real time.
yeah. So that again, you're dialing up that immersion factor. So obviously that's something that's really awesome for things like Resident Evil 7, which is a horror scenario, because you can be put into an environment that will make your brain think that you are in real danger. And then you have to, when you find out when your hand fucking goes through a bench by accident or something like that, you're pulled back out of it, basically. But the concept of VR, I think, is really cool. But the thing with VR is a lot of people have come to treat it as a gimmick, because, like Shawn has said, the full, like, normal, typical gameplay experiences, that's something you'd see in a normal game that wasn't VR controlled. We don't have a lot of those experiences. It's getting better by the day, and I think there's a bigger, although PSVR has done a very good job of making it more readily available, because right now, I'd say compared to when it originally came out, it's much more available now. You can get a headset for $200 now, which is still pretty expensive. It's at the price of a console, and it's just a peripheral. But originally, when these things were like Vive originally first came out and it was only on PC, these things costed like $600, $700, $800. It was definitely more of like an early adopter phase. Not everyone had experiences with it, but now as we've moved down, it's been a couple of years, we've had much more time for this to kind of seep out and more people to try this. And as crappy as the PSVR can be, I think for a budget form of VR, it does very well with its
especially thing. The 2.0 version they've got now.
Oh yeah. And again, there was always the little changes that came across, like, oh, maybe we should put headphones on the thing. So now you have headphones that are connected to the headset instead of you having to use your own secondary set. Or the tracking gets better, because the thing with the PlayStation VR that kind of sucks is they were using older hardware with their Move controllers, and everything was light based. Whereas with like the Vive and the Oculus, they're infrared, so the tracking is much better. And also, instead of using one camera that sits in front of you, you have 4 situated around your room, so you could
Infrared's not very good for tracking, though.
Well, it's better than light based at the very least.
Is it? I know it's pretty shitty for most tracking. Because I mean, even the slightest interruption between the signals, and you're fucked.
Well, that's why. For the most part, the cameras.
I thought they were using like radio tracking or something like that.
Let me see. I was pretty sure. What does Vive use to track headset? I was pretty sure.
You might be right. I find it surprising that they would go with something as flawed as infrared. Plus, it's a slow track too. Like most of your shitty, what was that awful Xbox thing? The
Kinect
controller.
Kinect.
The Kinect, yeah. With your Kinect plug and play knockoff devices and your Wii knockoff plug and play consoles, the ones that have like 500 games and shit, all of those use infrared tracking, and infrared tracking is garbage. Some of them use even crappier shit, but a bunch of them use infrared tracking, which is not good because you have to have whatever it is pointing directly at the device for it to track. And even then, the tracking's not 1-to-1.
Yeah, one thing I didn't know is that the resolution per eye is 1080 by 1200 for each eye, so it's not 1080p. But the tracking system is dubbed Lighthouse, and its 2 based stations emit a pulsing IR laser. So basically, they fill the area. So you'll have cameras that you set up in the corners of wherever your space needs to be.
So it's creating a spread. I got you.
Yeah. And then as the headset moves through basically this whole area that's blanketed with these pulsing lasers, it gets sent. The information gets sent to the computer, and then that is reflected within the game. But I've heard, for the most part, if you have your sensors in the proper places, that the tracking at least is much better than the PlayStation tracking. Not that the PlayStation tracking is bad, but with it being light based, if your room's not properly lit and you're too far, the area is much smaller, obviously, that you could have issues with. I call it the Parkinson's effect, but like your controllers will just shake, so your hands in game will shake. Your headset can shake, and it does not help whatsoever with the motion sickness, that's for sure. Which is another interesting, I guess you could say, side effect with VR, which is basically your brain like telling you like, hey, holy shit, slow the fuck down. How is this happening right now? And especially with the effect of movement. It's obviously always movement. But when, like, say for Resident Evil 7, you're controlling it with a controller for the most part, and you're just looking around. So when your eyes are perceiving your body moving, but you're sitting down in a chair, and your brain just is like having one checkbox filled but not the other. So it's like, go fuck yourself. You need to stop this. And people get hit with heavy fucking motion sickness. I never dealt with motion sickness, but I never like had that walking. I never played 7 or things like that. Most of what I did were like the little experiences that came with the PSVR, because I've only like demoed it. I haven't actually owned a VR set. I do plan to get a Vive or Oculus at one point, because I got space in this room, and I'd love to make VR videos for the channel. That'd be so much fucking fun to like throw my mother or father or Caitlyn in VR and have them play like Super Hot or something, and then record that, put it on the channel, and have fun with that. I think that'd be really fun. Just got to save up the money for them. Obviously, they're expensive. But yeah, I always thought that was interesting. So that's a little bit of, again, the technology, at least for the Vive and how they work. Again, PlayStation VR uses the camera, the Move controllers, and the headset, and it's light-based tracking, which is interesting. They kind of just did a hodgepodge and threw all the technology they actively had to make a truly budget form of VR. To make it as cheap as possible, so it could be,
and it's functional.
Yeah, I gotta say it. Like I was saying,
functional.
It may have its issues, but for the most part, I think what PlayStation did with the PSVR was fucking so smart, and it ended up working out very well for them. And they sold a really good amount of units because it was budget. Give it to console gaming to make. No, I'm just fucking with you. It was, I think, a very smart idea. And I think as they continue to improve it, the technology becomes more readily available. We'll see better versions of it. And then all of this is in an effort to keep upping that immersion factor. Technology will get better. It'll be easier to render environments in these engines that deal with VR. So that's another issue that you have with PlayStation at the very least, is that if you're a lot of games, it's just difficult. If it's something that's massively open world and you should be walking around, look at Skyrim VR. That's all you need to know. If you've ever played Skyrim VR, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything looks like you're playing a Nintendo 64 in VR because they had to downscale the fuck out of the resolution and the textures in order to make it work. But it works. Again, you got to give it to them for making it work, although it is a very shitty version of it. One thing that's shitty for PlayStation is that they made it exclusive to PlayStation VR, so you couldn't play Skyrim in VR on your PC if you had like a Vive or something like that, because they made it exclusive. But I'm thinking, what else is there? So one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about that I thought would be interesting is we've seen stuff like this explored in media before. If you look at things like in the effort of anime, you have Sword Online, and they explore the side effects of VR, not in the sense of physical, but in a emotional or societal view. And I thought it was interesting, at least with things like SAO. You had kids that were just playing a game, were brought into real world experiences, had to deal with death and the effects of death being present at all times, and how people through that effort were made into adults being just children, and stuff like that. But I think another interesting thing is, as we continue to see shit like this, right? We have VR continue to expand. It becomes more readily accessible. Will we see something along the lines of, we got Ready Player One? Will we see something where, as the world, well, that's assuming if this happens, is the world continues to go to shit, population continues to rise, and it becomes more crowded, will people resort to something like this, where it's easier to obviously work through digital space because it doesn't exist in a physical sense, it doesn't take up space? Will people resort to something like that? Will we have mass amounts of people spending their lives in a VR world? And although it won't be in that expanse, you could kind of see it in what we've seen with VR chat, where people will spend hours upon hours walking around and talking to other people on in a digital world, compared to going out and doing it in the real world and stuff like that. So I think it's just all interesting to see this develop and move forward, with just VR in general. What do you think about the concept of VR, Shawn? And as we continue to get better technology, I know one of your goals that you said earlier was having just more fully packed experiences that would be readily available compared to...
Oh, I've given VR a lot of thought. Well, I played VR when it first came out, and those big hulky machines in arcades where you had to pay $10 to play a game that was really, really...
Do you remember that?
The one I played was it was in a dungeon, like a cave style dungeon, like very basic.
Do you know where this was?
Skeletons would attack you.
Like
yeah,
what?
Daytona.
Was it like
a boardwalk?
Oh, okay. I had a Dave and Buster's we used to go to, which had something like that. I don't remember what it was called, but it had a helmet that you pull down and it goes over your face, and it had a little video. And what it was is you were like in a pillbox on like a beach, and then all around you enemies would come at you, and you had to spin around holding on to the helmet and shoot at them. I didn't know what it was called, but I used to play something like that all the time.
Was that an actual arcade game?
Yeah, like a legitimate machine.
That wasn't VR. VR was you stepped into this ring. It was made up of, it was fenced in.
Okay.
You had these sensors and these fences. They'd open the gate, you'd step into it. It was about as big as, it was a little bit bigger than like a full blown DDR pad for two people. Like it
Okay.
was large enough, and you could bump into the rails, and that would keep you from falling out of the game space. Then there was an arm that floated over you, and then there was a cord running down from it to the helmet, and the helmet would sit on this rack, and then you'd put the helmet on, and then the helmet it was fairly heavy, and they strapped you into it, and then they give you these gun controllers, right? Or these sticks, depends on what the game was. And each system, each unit was built to run a specific game. They'd have to unplug some hardware and plug other hardware in to run a different game. So a lot of them were built with these squishy trigger things, like a bike brake.
Okay.
Or and some of them there was either that or there was the gun controller. And I think it was a bike brake. I don't remember what the controller was, but you had to swing your arm and you would swing a sword, or you could take your left arm and put it in front of you and you bring a shield up, and then these skeletons would attack you. But the reading of your movements was garbage. So it was like so hard to hit anything, and you would swing and sometimes it would connect, sometimes it wouldn't. Like the hitbox was garbage. Like it wasn't fun to play. Like I spent $10 or $20 or whatever it was, got my ass handed to me by the first enemy. It was hard.
Yeah.
And the graphics were from what I remember, not terrible. Disney used to have this great thing called Disney Quest, and they had a bunch of VR games there, and they were all fun to play. I never got motion sick or anything like that. They were super fun, but they were all really difficult, and you didn't get a lot of practice because there was always a line. So you get to play it for a few moments, and it's designed so that even if you succeed, you basically just run through one level and then you're done.
Yeah.
So there was an Aladdin's Magic Carpet one, which was hard. You had racing controls, forward, backwards, slow down, and then you had a fireball thing you could cast or some shit like that. And dodging projectiles was difficult. And you could only get hit so many times before you were knocked out. It was basically a bunch of people on magic carpets trying to run through this temple without getting knocked out by all the booby traps and ghosts and demons or whatever. They had a roller coaster one, which was a roller coaster simulation, which was VR. They had a bunch of shit like that. And those were all really fun. But again, there was limitations because these things were built, basically they were simulated theme park rides.
Yeah.
So they were like part video game, but they had a bunch of extra expensive hardware that was used in conjunction with it. There was a raft one, there was a pirate ship one, which was super fun. I was badass at that one. With the old VR though, it was too expensive, too limited, and not nearly accurate enough. And so that was a gimmick. With the new VR, I see this as being the new frontier. But with that, and I do believe that it is coming. I don't believe that it's going to phase out this time. It's going to change how we consume media, because it's not just going to be games. After a while, it's going to be a lot more. I mean, right now, as far as I know, you can watch things like Netflix and stuff like that on the Google Cardboard, on the Sony VR, on a couple different things, VR platforms. You can watch movies and stuff like that. It's 2D. It basically just kind of creates
a screen in front of you that curves.
Theater. Yeah, it somehow does something with the resolution so that it equates to the resolution of a screen that's like such and such by such and such 6 feet from you or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just no matter where you turn your head, the TV's in front of you.
Yeah.
So, what's going to happen is we're going to have to evolve with it, because a lot of people, I think no matter what game you're playing, there's going to be some adjustment.
Oh, definitely.
That you're going to have to go through. You're going to have to adjust to it. It's going to take some practice. And the thing is even though consciously We know exactly what's happening. We know we're in VR. Our subconscious does not understand the difference. Our subconscious can only deal with exactly what it's receiving. So it is going to think we're in danger. It is going to think that, there's an issue happening or whatnot. And you're going to have, I think, a number of things. There are a lot of psychologists that are concerned, validly concerned. Don't get me wrong. I want the technology to come, but there's going to have to be, I don't know if we're responsible enough. I don't know how humanity is going to take it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like cyber this or fucking super science fiction, but you have to understand, like, people, how much time are they going to spend in? Is it going to get to a point where subconsciously they can't tell Zim, come on, man, I'm in the middle of something here.
I'm monologuing.
Yeah, I'm monologuing. I'm thinking. I'm doing some intelligent shit here. Is it going to get to a point where people are going to mess themselves because they don't log out, because they're not paying attention to their body's signals? These are all very real things that can happen. Are people going to be able to tell the difference? Are they going to start having issues coping in real life? And if you want a comparison, look at cell phone media. Look at social media, how accessible it is now, like how it's changed humanity, because we are different now. We are different than we were even 20 years ago. And the reason that we are different is because now we have computers in our hands that not only look everything up for us, we're less likely to remember facts and details now. People don't remember phone numbers now. People don't talk to each other at dinner tables because they're busy fucking around with their phones. Like, it's a different world than when we were kids, And with VR, that's taking it a huge step further. How we socialize, how we consume content, and that you'll see another change. And I would say it would be at least as drastic as the change we've experienced between like a standard, before cell phones being commonplace to after cell phones being commonplace, and then switching it up to from when you had the old brick cell phones that had, Snake on them and were able to text and make phone calls, and that was pretty much it. And now you've got pocket computers where you can watch movies, play high resolution video games. You can play games with each other. They have MMOs on them now. You can go on iFunny or Facebook. You can live part of your social life through your phone. So when you introduce something like VR, and the cheaper it gets and the more accessible it gets, that's a whole host of new problems. And I don't know how.
And even if you get to the point where not like, because right now VR, again, very early stages of it, where we're strapped to our room. Now, what if we get to a point where you can leave with a VR headset? You can go outside with a VR headset. And
Google Glass.
Well, Google Glass is more of AR than
VR. But AR and VR aren't too far apart. I mean, you're going to come to a point where you can put on a set of goggles and you can do VR with them.
Well, yeah, but then you're still technically like in VR. Like Google Glass is more of like, again, it's, as it says, augmented reality. You're still seeing the world. It's just got overlays on it. Whereas VR is, it's reconstructing something out of nothing.
Yeah, but it's not super portable as of yet.
Oh,
and
no,
Google Glass was very portable. Google Glass was basically just a set of shades.
Yeah. And again, all it was
failed.
Like, oh, yeah. Well, again, early level technology, very expensive, and it's not readily available. It's not consumer
Yeah, I got approved
ready.
for one. I was on a waiting list. I didn't know how much it was going to cost.
$10,000.
Me my approval, and I don't remember how much it was, but it was a lot.
Yeah,
I think it was like 800 or something ridiculous. 400, 500. I was like, fuck no.
Yeah. Again, and this is all just for the fun of having conversation. But even if you get down, and it's right now it's a joke, but it's a thing. There's VR porn, and that can also, with the whole idea of VR, is to throw the immersion factor up to an 11 or whatever. The effects that could have on someone's psyche of becoming as much as easy as it is to become addicted to porn already, on top of the fact that now it's made even more realistic.
Just like the leaps in our technology that we've had that I discussed earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to have as much good potential as bad potential.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's up to the developers to be responsible with how they put out content. You know, maybe forcing, I wouldn't say forcing, but maybe if you create content where every so often it makes you take a break, makes you take the headset off. Like you're in a plot point, it hits a point where you can stop and it goes, okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break. Now, you can skip that 10-minute break, but maybe, I don't know, something to make sure that people step out and experience reality. Because no matter what, ultimately, I have, as much as I've loved my stories and I've loved my games, they give me some of my favorite memories. Those are favorite memories alone. My memories in the real world with friends doing things, even if it's just sitting on a back porch or riding a roller coaster or mini golf, are still more powerful memories. I love gaming. I will always love gaming. It's always going to be something that I do, but it can't replace life. And the issue you have with VR is you're giving somebody something now. The only thing they're missing is smell and taste and touch. They've got the hearing, they've got the visual. It's realistic enough to fool your subconscious, and it's easy to just stay there.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be, I think, the biggest hurdle to overcome. On the other hand, that's also going to be a tremendous, powerful tool for training, for practice, for learning things, especially for people who are handicapped or can't go or do certain things. It's going to give them the ability to experience some of that. So I think that I want this to happen, and I want it to happen yesterday. I want it to be a regular thing, but I also hope that when we step forward into this next phase of how we consume media, that we're a little bit smarter about it than we were the last time. Because all we did last time was get greedy with the technology and run with it as fast and as hard as we could in whatever way that was profitable. And I think as much good as we got out of it, I think there's a lot of nearly irreversible bad, and I kind of miss certain parts of the way things used to be before all of this was so readily accessible. I don't think that you're going to have a portable VR in any way like become a huge thing, because that's just as terrible inconvenience to not be able to see. But you can already see they've got a league, an AR sports league that is like throwing Hadoukens and shit at each other. It's like dodgeball with fireballs and shit. They've got another one where you're using light guns in your cell phones, and you plug the cell phone in, and the cell phone lets you see who's a player and
Oh yeah, I've seen
to
that.
fire at the players and a bunch of cool shit like that. And I think that's awesome. That's the next generation of laser tag. But when you get something that's so immersive that people lose themselves in it, that is a double-edged sword. And I'm curious to see how we handle that, because I want that to happen, and I don't have any doubt that I'll be able to adjust to it, and I don't think it's going to consume me any more than video games already do. But I think that it's easy for people who have less coping skills than I do to prefer to have the headset on instead of off. And while I understand that, I also know that that's not healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm kind of curious as to how that's going to play out,
Oh yeah,
especially considering headsets are going to get cheaper and the visual element's going to get better and the controls are going to get better. Because right now I don't like the controls on the Vive, sorry, or the Samsung one or any of those. You got like a couple of buttons and these weird little hand things, and I really don't like that. I like a controller with the buttons and the response time and the customization to it. You really don't have that with those. Like, you need a lot more options, I think.
Yeah, it also depends on the game that it's for. There's a lot of games where
True.
just throw you put the headset on you. You don't have the move controllers.
Yeah,
And
most of them are just motion simulators, and that's not fun to me. That's interesting for a few moments, and then I'm done.
yeah, no, I still think one of the better experiences is like something like Resident Evil, where it's like you're just playing it, but you have the added effect that you have a helmet on and stuff like that, which I think is pretty cool. I also
I
like.
wasn't aware that the graphics were dumbed down so much for some of
Oh,
those games. Like, I
yeah,
didn't know
I'm telling
that.
you, man. PSVR, everything looks like doo doo. In all honesty, um, it's the one of the interesting marvels of VR is even though everything looks like doo-doo to give you a constant reminder that you are wearing a helmet, you can still fully get immersed in stuff like that just because of the fact that it's one-to-one movement, which is really interesting. I also like that you touched upon like the training aspect. Obviously, us being a gaming podcast, we originally started with that, but I think it would also be super cool to see stuff like this emerge in schools and hospitals and things along those lines. And even like I was speaking with the maxillofacial surgeon that's going to be working on my jaw, and he said that he goes into a computer and he works on like they'll simulate the surgery ahead of time with my the dimensions of my face, so that when he does the surgery, he has the simulated version has created guidelines for him. So while he's doing the surgery, it basically brings down the chances of like shit going wrong down to like sub-decimal percentages because of the fact that everything's been done ahead of time. So imagine we get to a point where you could do stuff like full like open heart surgeries all within the realms of VR to train, or even to a point where we have like a mixture of that and the Da Vinci systems, which are those sets where it's like you're sitting with controllers and you're operating these really small hand things. What if those two got smacked and linked together? I don't know, I can't imagine this. I don't know if this would be good or bad, but you perform the entire surgery in VR, and then there's a machine replicating you in real life. So say like you could perform a surgery from home. Again, it sounds silly or really super futuristic. Or you could perform a surgery halfway across the world if you need someone to do it that you can't normally get access to. Like we can have these systems, these hospitals that are fully remotely operated from in third world countries of people performing full surgery or doing treatments that normally couldn't get there without having a team on the ground that normally can't afford something like that. So this is all getting like super futuristic, but there's so many.
Yeah,
there's so many.
I don't think we have robots that could be that perfect.
But if you look at the Da Vinci systems, they do that. They're replicating what a doctor's telling them to do. They're used for very precise procedures. That's what the Da Vinci.
Are they truly one-to-one, like exactly the doctor's movements?
Yeah. It's just the doctor's not actually.
That shit was like straight up science fiction.
No, they exist.
Nowhere that they had gotten it to work. I remember they were working on it.
For any of you out there, they've been around for a while, so I don't know what version they're at now. But if that sounds interesting to you, Google Da Vinci surgical systems, and that's exactly what I explained that they were. They're these these robotic hand things that the doctor is working with controllers that inputs the movements, and it makes they have a screen that they're looking at, and it makes like pinpoint precise actions with these little robotic hands. Because sometimes hands are big, you can't really shove your entire arm in some dude's chest cavity. It's much easier to do it something with like the Da Vinci if it's something that requires that precision. No, they're straight one-to-one, and they're used quite often. Actually, it's really interesting. We might not see them in a typical hospital, but if you need something that's like requires a specialist or something along those lines, they could use a Da Vinci system to operate. So definitely an interesting thing. But final thoughts. We kind of said again, it was just to generate conversation, give you guys something to think about. Let us know what you guys think about the advancements of VR. Any opinions you had on what we talked about, or if you want to fact check us, we said something stupid, and you want to call us out on it, I'd appreciate that. We're all doing this in an effort to learn more about each other and about the world. So I'm thinking, Shawn, you have any final thoughts on VR before we call it an episode?
I'm looking forward to it. I've wanted it since I was a kid. I just want it to behave in the same nature that video games behave without VR. I want platformers and RPGs and, racing games and fighting games and action games. And I don't want every game to be made for VR. Because not all games are going to be good for VR. I mean, they might make a just a much more immersive fighting game. But like first person is not something that would work for a fighting game. Even if they had it perfect, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
Like I like being able to see the whole arena more of a cinematic style, sideways, or like Soul Calibur, where you can. It's a 360 fighter, you know, things like that. It obviously wouldn't work for it, but you might be able to use it to add some depth of field or something. You know, it's like I think VR is going to come along at the same rate as the true 3D televisions are able to. Like I think we're going to see those two things kind of change how we consume home television. But I think if they play their cards right with VR, I think it's definitely coming. I don't think it's going to go away. I think it will pick up steam, and I think the next 5 to 10 years are really going to make it a regular, or at least a fairly regular peripheral with video games. Whereas right now, it's still supremely optional. It's not supported by as much as it should be.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I'm looking
forward to it.
Yeah, I am as well, and I'm not only looking forward to the advancements that we'd see in video gaming, but also outside applications that it could be put to, and seeing just the technology in general spread and see what kind of cool things we could have down the line. I definitely do agree with you. So, again, that was episode 42 of the Thought Patrol podcast. You were joined by a doped up Kyle and Shawn over Discord. I'm glad that you guys could tune in, listen to us. All you out there that interact with us and hang out with us, play games with us, we really appreciate it. And we're just really happy that we decided to buckle down and actually do this sort of thing. Podcasting. I never thought it was going to be podcasting, although I love doing it. I'm just happy that, I don't know. I told you, dope, Kyle. So, before we close the episode, as always, we're going to get some outros. So hit me, Shawn.
Hugs and kisses and all your pink parts.
Right to the center.
Ladies.
Yeah, I hit hard. All right. And before we go, I shall leave you all with a thought. It takes about 142.18 licks to reach the center of a Tootsie Pop.